Hello, everyone. I am TK Kugler from Wasabi Venture Sports, and it is great to have all of you here tonight and to have a great session, which I think is going to be both fun, entertaining, and educational for a lot of people out there. And we're going to talk a little. We're talking tonight to David Krakower, who is the general manager of the Lafayette Aviators, a team that the Wasabi Venture Sports owns a part of, and is the sort of operating manager of right now. And so we're going to talk to David tonight. I've gotten to know David over the last few years, and he's really wonderful to speak to, and a really sort of plethora of information. So first of all, thanks for coming tonight, David.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, TK, and I appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. This is a special opportunity for me, so I really do appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's kick it off. Anybody that's a sports fan understands and hears the term general manager, right? So there's a level of understanding of what a general manager does in like an NFL team, or a Major League Baseball team or something, in Major League sports. But let's try to get an understanding of what it looks like in your world. So let's first start with, who is David Krakower? How did you get from wherever you were to the job as a general manager in a collegiate summer league baseball team?
Sure. My road here has been long and winding and arduous, but incredibly rewarding. Grew up played baseball my whole life. At some point in my life, I assumed I would play Major League Baseball. That was my dream, was to be the center fielder for the San Francisco Giants. That clearly didn't happen. So, but you get to a point in life, and for me, it was in college when I realized my playing days were about to come to an end. And what was I going to do with my life? Because all I knew my whole life was baseball and numbers. Those were the two things I knew. Was I'm a numbers guy and I love baseball. So I figured I needed to do something. So I wound up getting my master's degree in sports management. And I've been working for different teams around the country throughout my entire life. I started at the Major League level, actually, with the Detroit Tigers. And I've since moved around to several different teams around the country at varying degrees. I got my foot in the door and cut my teeth through ticket sales. I was an inside sales rep, basically pounding the phones, making 100 calls a day, straight out of college. Not really knowing what I was doing. Prior to that job, I did not know sales. I actually hated salespeople. Couldn't stand sales. I didn't own a lemonade stand growing up. I thought all salespeople were sleazy. And so when I was offered the job with the Tigers, working as a sales rep, I thought I was going to hate it. Thought I didn't want to be the guy who picked up the phone and asked somebody else for money. That's not me. I don't like doing that. So I thought I'd be in and out of there in a couple of months if I didn't get either promoted or moved over to the baseball operations department, where I could eventually be to your point, TK, the general manager of the Detroit Tigers. So I was shocked and surprised. My very first mentor in this industry was the VP of sales for the Tigers, who sort of took me under his wing and sort of showed me the ropes about how to do this without being the sleazy car salesman that we all hate. And it really worked, because after my first 6 weeks there, when I really wasn't enjoying what I was doing, he got me to see how great this industry could be on the business side of things. And he taught me not the sales side of sports, but the business side of sports. And it really opened my eyes. And that's when I knew I was never going to leave. I never wanted to leave this industry, because it combined my passions. I got to use numbers. I got to talk sports with people all day on the phone. I just loved every aspect of it. And so I spent a few years with the Tigers. I eventually wound up moving back home. I'm originally from South Florida, and worked for the team, in my hometown with the Florida Marlins before they became the Miami Marlins. Won a World Series win with the Marlins. It was great, beating the Yankees in the World Series. So that was a lot of fun. And then since then, my career has kind of gone to kind of like this call tonight, all different time zones. I've moved all over the country. My wife once told me she wanted to visit all 50 states. She doesn't want to live in all 50 states, but we're getting there. I think we've been to 9 states together. We've lived in 9 states. but I eventually worked my way up with each team, getting promoted a little bit. Eventually became the assistant general manager of a minor league baseball team in New Britain, Connecticut. So I was the number 2 on the totem pole there. And so I got to really learn how to run an organization there. Eventually things didn't work out. COVID happened. I eventually found my way here to Lafayette. And honestly, it's been like home to me. I've been here now 3 seasons, heading into my 4th year. The people here are wonderful. I see some of our season ticket holders and host families on this call. Thank you guys for being here. Right away, I see Cheryl and Earl. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. So, thank you guys, and to the community for what they've done here for the Aviators and for me and my family as well. So, so again, it's been a long, winding road to get here. As far as the nice insight that I have, because I've worked at every level of baseball now. I've worked in the majors, the minors, independent league baseball, and now summer collegiate baseball. I know the difference of what a general manager does and doesn't do at each level. And the number one, because I get this question all the time from people about putting the roster together, because people see what a general manager does of a Major League Baseball team or an NFL team or an NBA team, and they know that the general manager or the president, who, whatever he or she is at that level, they're putting the team together. They're the ones that are signing free agents, making trades, worrying about salary cap, doing whatever needs to be done for roster construction. At this level, someone in my position, a president, a GM, somebody like that who was running the team, they are very limited in roster construction. It is mostly done by the head coach. So I work in conjunction with Jamie Sailors, who's our manager on the field. I may have a few suggestions here and there, players I've seen play, and I'll send them along to Jamie. At the end of the day, roster construction, though, is ultimately done by Jamie with some suggestion from me, as opposed to the other way around, as it's done at the major league level, where the general manager makes the decision and the manager might have some suggestions. So it's sort of flip-flopped. My major role is how the Aviators are viewed in this community as a business, as a charitable organization to our community foundation, how our players behave in the community, how basically, again, just the brand in the community. I am responsible for basically everything else other than what goes on the field. I am in charge of making sure we stay cash flow positive. I am making sure we have a good staff, and I'll introduce them here shortly because I saw them on the call. I'm responsible for again making sure that our standing in the community is good. The liaison between the Aviators and the city, the liaison between the Aviators and the Prospect League and the other member teams with the Prospect League. So really it's just making sure that everything runs smoothly behind the scenes, so that when you as fans show up at the ballpark, you have the best possible experience. Like if I see a fan, my favorite memory of being at an Aviators game was in 2022. We were losing 17-4. First of all, the stadium was still full in the 8th inning. I went up to see one of my clients who had a suite that night, and he said they had never had that great of an experience at a baseball game. I looked at the scoreboard. I said, but Rob, we're losing 17-4. He said, I don't care. We're having fun. And that meant everything to me. That meant that everybody on the Aviator staff was doing their job. When you guys are having fun at the ballpark, the score doesn't matter. And I leave that night a very happy man. And that really is, that's my job. Really, at the end of the day, my job can be summed up in one sentence: making sure the community of Lafayette is having a good time at Aviators baseball games.
It's really great. So, and you covered a lot of ground there. This makes my interviewing so easy. So, but and thanks for that. Your job is
to make your life easy, TK.
Well, at least you know that. That's what I would say. So, taking a couple of the things though and expanding on those. We're in the off season right now, and so. What first question here, and a couple questions about the off season, because I think that's a time that people really don't know what's going on. What in the role that you're in, what are the kind of things that you're working on right now and with the team in December when the season's 6 months away or 5 months away. So what kind of things are you working on right now?
Can I get my mother on this call really quickly? Because she's convinced that the minute we turn off the lights on the last day of the season, I don't have to show back up at work again until 6 o'clock on opening day, because we don't do anything in the off season. So I'd really like to answer this question with her on the call.
Yeah, I'll make sure I send the copy to her.
Thank you. So there's a lot that goes into the offseason. Again, we talk about roster construction. While I'm not responsible for it, there's a lot of back and forth between Jamie and I, making sure that the team is set for next year. There's also staffing, a ton of staffing, making sure that we have the right staff in place, from full-time staff to interns to part-time staff to game day staff. So right now, we are in I would say, the staff construction. I have two members, and I'll now take this opportunity to introduce them. They're on the call right now. So Hunter Roush is our director of ticket sales. So everything ticket related falls under Hunter. He started as an intern in 2021, left in 2022 because he had gotten a full-time job, and then came back before last season. So he's be entering his second season as a full-time employee with the Aviators. He does a wonderful job as our director of ticket sales. And then Elena Albarico, she is our social media manager and social media and community outreach manager. Although at this point, I should probably just call her our director of digital media, because she's doing all of our digital marketing at this point for us, internally. So, she started as an intern last summer, our social media intern, became our social media manager over the summer when her predecessor stepped away from the Aviators, and then took over this full-time role in August. So part of my, and she's been absolutely phenomenal in her role. We've been out at more community events this fall than we ever, probably the last 3 years combined. So, and then our social media presence has probably increased tenfold since she took over that role. So I've got a great staff. Like the staff I've got right now is incredible. And then we'll have a full-time food and beverage manager coming on in January. So these are the things I'm working on now, making sure we're fully staffed. Additionally, in addition to staffing, I talked earlier in my initial monologue about staying cash flow positive. So while Hunter's out there pounding the pavement and making sure that there'll be butts in seats, come opening day next year, and making sure we're selling as many tickets as humanly possible, Hunter and I both, and Elena as well, because she has a few accounts too, all of us are making sure that we have sponsors and that we are cash flow positive from a sponsorship standpoint. So we are out prospecting in many different types of ways, whether it's we are prospecting sponsors, prospecting tickets, prospecting. Elena is out there again prospecting different community partners that we can, be partnered with. She's getting as many community partners as we possibly can. So we're all doing different types of prospecting. Once our food and beverage manager comes on board in January, then he and I will be working on different food vendors. What types of food are we going to have in the stadium next year? So it's everything that the fans may not see, and we don't want them to see. We want them to show up at 6 o'clock on opening night thinking that all this happened by magic, that we snapped our fingers and all the new food in the concession stand showed up, that the new uniforms for the players just magically showed up, and the ordering the baseball bats and the baseballs and the new merch. We just woke up that morning, said, hey, this would be a cool idea, and all the merch just arrived that night. So those are all the things we do in the off season that we hope the fans don't ever have to see, that they just show up and it magically appears on opening night.
You mentioned obviously Elena and Hunter are on the call, and the food and beverage full-time managers coming in January 1. Is that the makeup of the current full-time staff? Will that be the full-time staff?
We'll also have a creative and entertainment manager on staff as well, who will be responsible for planning all the on-field promotions, the in-between inning games that we all see, all the what keeps it fun, and then also that person would work with Elena on graphics, any graphic creation that needs to be done for the video board, helping run the control room when the season starts, to make sure that the video board and the PA and anything audio visual gets taken care of. So ultimately, we will have there'll be 5 full-time staff, including myself.
Yep. And then to supplement that, because this is another interesting thing about a general manager at this, you mentioned that you're lining up interns and you're lining up part-time staff. When we move from off season to season, what's the staff look like when it gets to, sort of game time? How big is that staff? How much does it burst to for you that you're managing?
Your timing of this question is actually really good, because a year ago I couldn't have answered that question. But this year, since I actually get to work on the budget, I know exactly how many staff we had last year, because I had to count up how many part-time staff. So we have 5 full-time staff. During the season, we have 44 paid, either part-time interns, game day staff. So we have 49 total staff that are paid. We usually have anywhere from 8 to 10 that are volunteer type positions. Again, whether it's an unpaid intern, or somebody who's volunteering for the day. They want to get some, they just want to get the experience of work, what it's like to work for a baseball team. So ultimately, you figure we've got about 60 people on staff between paid and unpaid.
Yep. And where do those folks come from? Where, generally speaking, I mean, and obviously Lafayette's a college town, so you got a little bit of a bonus there. But is that the answer, or is this a lot of Purdue?
Purdue is a great resource for us. We use a lot of our part-time game day staff. We do use Purdue as a resource. We also have colleges, universities from around the country, around Indiana, around the country. Both Elena and Hunter started as interns. Neither one of them are Purdue interns, though. Hunter from IU over in Bloomington, Elena from Columbia College in Chicago. So we can pull, and we have pulled, from as far north as Wisconsin when it comes to interns. And then as far west as actually Missouri. I did have an intern from Missouri once. So and then as far east as Ohio. So we can pull from everywhere. They're usually college students. A lot of our game day staff, though, will be local high school students that are looking for a summer job in high school as well. So we have it's a good mix of local folks, and then of course our ushers and ticket takers. A lot of times are retirees who just love the game of baseball and have an opportunity to be paid, a couple bucks here and there to get to go watch some baseball games. So, and they're often work at Purdue baseball games. So they're thinking, well, now that Purdue season is over, let's go work for the Aviators over the summer. So again, still Purdue coming into play there as well.
Yeah. Coming back to you, David, if you talked about your journey to get here. How much do you, how did you make, because as a player, when did you make the decision that you wanted to not be an on-field coach or an on-field sort of participant and be in the business side of that? How did that decision process go for you? Because I've got to assume at some point you thought you might also be a coach. When you decided you were going to be a player, you had to at least think a little bit, oh, I'll go the coaching route. How did you make that decision?
Honestly, I don't know that I actually officially made the decision until after I started my career. I still believed at some point, even my first year with the Tigers, I thought at some point I'd still make the transition out of the business side, because at that point I thought, oh, this is just sales. I don't want to do sales. This was just my foot in the door to get to work for a team. Ultimately, I'll move over to the other side of things. I think it was after when I met my mentor, the late Dave Glazier, who was the VP of sales at the time for the Tigers, when he took me under his wing and he showed me how much fun I could have on the business side of sports. And then I realized there was an opportunity for me to make my mark on this side of the business, and the doors that would be opened to me if I was successful on this side of the business. Because, if you go to the baseball side of the business, there are 30 general managers of Major League Baseball teams, 30 out of 330 million people that live in the United States. 30 of them are general managers. There are 30 head coaches there, so the opportunities are really narrow if you go to that side of baseball. Whereas if you're successful on this side of baseball, there are so many doors that can open for you Just by, and this is a word I use with my own staff, this is a word I used when I was interviewed once before. If you are willing to be adaptable, you can really be successful in sports.
Mhm. Great. That's a great answer. I'm going to give you a loaded question. This was here's your first loaded question, David. So, we've talked about all the milk and honey stuff. What's the one part of the job that you dislike the most? And everybody has a part of a job that they don't like. I've never met anybody that doesn't. So, what's something in the role that you wish you could wave a magic wand and it was different? I stumped you. Politics. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe in a meritocracy.
Yeah.
In everything in life. I think everything should be merit-based in life. If you earn it, you deserve it. And the further up, the older I get, and I'm old, but the older I get and the further up the food chain I get, the more I see politics, whether they're office politics, whether it's league politics, whatever it is, ownership politics, doesn't matter. I really wish everything was merit-based and we truly ran a meritocracy as opposed to always having to give into politics.
That's one of those beauties of sports, right? It tends to be a pretty meritocracy. I guess don't ask Florida State that right now, but whatever. So yes, so not to open that can of worms for the sports fans on the call, but talk to me a little bit, David, about because you mentioned this in your politics part about league politics. Talk for those that may not understand. Talk about the Prospect League, which the Aviators are a part of. How does that, people understand the Major League Baseball or the NFL, they understand sort of league. How does the league sort of give an umbrella for the teams in the league to play? How does that work? How much do you interact with the league office? How much do you not? How is that maybe different than at other levels of sports?
I think our league office, I'll start with the league office. I think our league office does a really good job from other leagues I've worked in as far as being proactive, having good communication. I speak to our commissioner multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, but at least 2 to 3 times a week. I am kept in the loop, and maybe it's because I'm one of the more vocal GMs and team leaders. So it's possible that that's why. Maybe if there was more, if there's a quieter, more reserved GM, maybe they don't get to talk to the commissioner as much. But I want to know what's going on. So, and he's open to letting me know. As like right now, they're currently putting the schedule together. I know day by day where we stand with everything. These emails don't appear to be league-wide emails. Maybe it's because I'm opening my mouth and asking the question, but our commissioner seems to be very communicative. He does tend to like to keep people in the loop. I appreciate that about our commissioner. One of the other things that that I like about the league is, while I do think there are politics that happen behind the scenes, at least on the surface, I don't feel like our commissioner has a favorite. I don't feel like, well, he's based close to Southern Illinois, his home base is Southern Illinois, so that the team in Southern Illinois that I know exists is going to get any sort of special treatment. Maybe he goes to visit them more because geographically it's easier for him to get there. But he came to our stadium twice last year. He's very, he does get to every stadium. I do like his.
How many teams are in the Prospect League for the
right now? So we are now up to 18.
Okay.
So we've expanded to another team this year. We lost one, but we added 2 this offseason.
Awesome. And so you hit on something, and I think this is a good first educational piece here. The schedule is really important. and talk to me about, the business side of here on sort of weekend days and home days and how the schedule puts together and why that's important for a team in a collegiate summer league team. Why is that so vital compared to, let's say, a minor league team? It may not be quite as important. So talk to a little bit about that.
Sure. We have 30 home games. I know we had 33 last year, but overall we have 30 home games, which means we only have 30 games to get it right. The minor league level, they have 70. Major leagues, they have 81 home games. So we have fewer opportunities to get things right with the community. So if we have a Wednesday night game where there's really not much going on, that is such a high percentage of our schedule. Like 1 out of 30 is a pretty high percentage. I mean, you're talking right off the bat, that's over 3% of our schedule in one game. If you have 3 bad dates, that's 10% of your schedule where there's really not much you can do from a promotion standpoint. So you're really grassrooting whatever fun things you can be able to do for the fans. So for us, particularly for Hunter on the sales side, and for Elena, as she's helping to plan whatever promotions and theme nights we're going to be doing, we need to know when the schedule is. We need those weekend days, those high priority days, those Friday nights, those Saturday nights, those Sunday afternoon games, when we know we can get a really big crowd and we want to do all those special things for the fans. So for us, even as we put a budget together, I got to know, well, how many of my 30 home games are Friday nights? How many are Saturday nights? How many are Sunday afternoons? How many kind of questionable games are going to be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday when maybe the crowd isn't going to be as high? There's not as much I can do for the fans. So that schedule being put together is really controls from now until March, we'll say, controls 80% of what we're going to be doing from now till March, because as Hunter's trying to sell season tickets and they're saying, well, when are your games? I don't know. I don't know. People can't commit. People may not want to commit to a season ticket until they know when our 30 home games are. They may not even want to commit to a flex plan. Well, I don't even know if I'm able to make that many games. So the schedule really dictates so much of what we do for these next 3 or 4 months.
Yep. It's great answer. I think it's very enlightening that when you start thinking about how many total games there are and how just one weekend game can impact all the margins in the whole year, it's a very interesting perspective compared to maybe some other leagues. I'm going to use this question as to dovetail in sort of the last section we want to sort of talk about. I got a question from Mark Erlinson, and he wanted to, in the Prospect League, and even if you want to even speak even specifically to what the Aviators does a lot of it. You talked about community. How much do little league teams and other teams in the area get invited to run around the bases and be a part of the fun? To sort of give that answer and use that in an answer of what are some of the things that you guys are starting to think about for 2024 that's fun in that way and community based?
So first of all, our local little leagues, youth league softball, like youth softball, little league baseball, they technically have that ability to come out and run on the field with the team or sit in the dugout and watch batting practice or do all these fun things. You technically can do that any game, because if you buy a group of tickets, we have one team a game that gets to run out on the field with our team, for the national anthem and stand next to one of our players, one of their heroes, or sit in the dugout and watch batting practice. Or, we have a lot of different opportunities for youth leagues. As far as just coming out and running the bases after the game, we do every Sunday home game. Franciscan Health sponsors our Franciscan Family Sunday, where the kids get to run the bases after the game, after every Sunday home game, and then line up and get every player's autograph after every Sunday home game. So the opportunities are always there. As far as other fun things we have coming for 2024, we do have a couple of new types of giveaways. We listen to our fans. Elena posted a poll on social media a month or so ago. What other giveaways would you like? We've listened to the fans. We've ordered some new fun giveaways for 2024. We also have 3 specialty theme night jerseys this year. We'll have our annual Hispanic Heritage Night. And then we have 2 more, which we'll announce once the schedule gets announced. We do have 2 more So we'll have 3 different times where the boys will be wearing different uniforms than their normal uniforms, and we will auction them off for charity as well.
Awesome. That's great stuff. And, it's a great question, Mark.
Mhm.
I think it's, tying that into youth leagues is a key thing. Another thing on that might seem small, but it ties into that the work never stops, in case your mom happens to be listening here.
I'm sending her a transcript of this.
Absolutely. So you have the team has come up with we have a new ticketing system, right? Just went in place live today. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is accurate, and thank you to Hunter when I was on the call for all of his hard work to make sure it got done on time and properly, and it looks good. And I know that both Hunter and his sales associate Chase let me know that people have already gone and checked it out. So that's a great thing.
Yep. So, and on top of it, also where the season never ends, because we were talking a little bit about this today, a new point of sale system too coming, right? Which, listening to problems that have happened in a few past years and adopting a new system. Is that another thing coming in 2024?
Yeah, so we are currently in the process of purchasing new point of sale terminals from a different company. We're upgrading. We basically upgraded everything this offseason, which is fantastic. So we've upgraded our ticketing system as of noon today. We are upgrading our point of sale system. We're currently in negotiation for the purchase of those, but way well in advance of the 2024 season, we will have those. So getting into the stadium should be easier, which I know was a problem for fans because some of our old point of sale terminals, particularly as it pertained to ticket scanning, became a headache for a lot of our fans. So again, to your point, TK, what we've done, we haven't done just frivolously or just because, hey, why not do it? We listened to the fans. We said, these are their problems. These are their, what their pain points are. And we want to make sure that we try to alleviate as many of their pain points as possible.
Yeah, it's all about making it fun, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So another 2024 thing sort of coming is I know we've already mentioned it, but I think it's important. We've never had a full-time food and beverage person. Is that accurate?
That is very accurate.
And so talk to me and let everybody understand why that's a big change and why that trickles all the way down to a better fan experience to have a full-time food and beverage person.
For several different reasons. First of all, that was a pain point for me for 3 years. So I'm glad we were able to get that taken care of. First of all, you get better candidates. If you tell somebody, yeah, you've got a full-time job for 3 months, and then for 3 more months, we'll pay you part-time, the pool of candidates you're going to get to choose from really narrows from all these great candidates. Maybe there's the candidates just who wants to work for 3 months without any stability. By bringing someone on full-time, by giving them stability, you widen your pool of candidates right off the bat. So you have better candidates to choose from. 2, it allows me to look through these candidates and say, listen, it gives me better options to choose from to make sure we're choosing the right person. And what happens then is when you have somebody full-time who knows what he or she is doing, then that trickles down to more efficiency because they're here earlier, so they can set things up earlier, so we can test things earlier, so that there are any hiccups, they can get corrected in the spring as opposed to in real time during a game. So, and then they can hire better because they're on my staff longer, so they've got more time to fill out their own staff as opposed to them sort of doing it last minute and having to pick again, again, it's a trickle down. If I've got a better pool of candidates, they've got longer to pick their candidates. That means they get a more of a pool of candidates to pick from. We wind up with better employees, better staff, better efficiency, better experience. Plus, lastly, as we were talking about potential new food items in 2024, a full-time food and beverage manager coming on in January as opposed to May gives he or she 4 additional months to find additional food vendors, additional food options. So now you've got better efficiency and more choices. That to me just screams better experience for the fans.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yes.
Yeah, so I got two more questions. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to put them in. But two very different questions. We'll start with the first one. If someone wanted to be and take the same career path that you've taken to kind of get to where you are, and be a general manager of a team on sort of, as you've described, that sort of that business side of the game, what one thing that you didn't do that you would advise and say, make sure you do this because it's gonna help your knowledge. It'll make your career go faster to get to your point. What's that one sort of mentor thing that you would say to someone that maybe you didn't get to hear, but now you know is a good thing?
Start earlier. I could have and probably should have been in the chair I'm in now, right? Not the exact physical chair I'm in now, but the metaphorical chair I'm in now. I could have and should have been here 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But I probably waited too long to really try to hone my skills to make sure I understood the entirety of the process. I knew, again, I knew sports, I knew numbers, I got good at sales early on. Didn't mean I was good at managing. It didn't mean I was good at operations. It didn't mean I was good at so many other aspects of running a team that I probably wound up cutting my teeth on that side of the business a little later than I could have and should have, had I just, either to your point, either had somebody tell me that, or I'm a smart enough guy. I probably should have figured that out on my own. Maybe I'm not so smart, I guess. Maybe it shows that I'm actually not that smart, but I should have probably figured it out, about 10 years earlier. And I could have been doing this now for 14 years as running a team instead of going to my 4th year running a team.
So I think if I was going to give feedback to people, for me, I would tell people to take more risk and start earlier. So it's a very similar answer. So that's great. Thanks for answering that. The last question for me, and once again, thanks for your time tonight, David. And then bringing it back to the Aviators and the 24 season, what's the biggest area that you think will be even better in 2024 than 2023 or 2022 with the Aviators? What's that one thing that you're so excited that's going to be different in 2024?
Fan experience.
And what's that mean?
Based on the ticketing system that Hunter has helped put together, based on all of the promotions that I know internally Elena has planned for 2024, based on the efficiency we're going to have, just based on every fan experience, to me, is from the minute someone hands their ticket to the ticket taker to the minute they walk out of the stadium, hopefully after the game, that their entire experience, literally from point A to point Z, is just more enjoyable. That everybody enjoys the on-field games more. Everybody enjoys our giveaways more. Everybody enjoys the player interaction more. I mean, we're going to have more player interaction this year. We're going to have players at the gates during, to greet fans. We're going to have, that's another big change this year. Yeah, we had them a couple times last year, but they're going to be out there so much more often this year to greet fans. So the merchandise we're going to have so much better merchandise this year. So literally every possible aspect of what it means to come to an Aviators game is going to be better in 2024 than it has been since I've been here. And from what I've heard since before I got here, that to me, I'm just going to go with the 2 words, fan experience. And that's what's going to be the biggest difference in 2024.
Well, I hope, I'm sure of that, and I can't wait to see it and experience it. So I'm sure everybody else is too. So David, thanks for your time tonight. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. I learned a few things, and hopefully you learned a few things about what a general manager of a collegiate summer league team does. So thanks for your time, David, and we'll see you in the season.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.